All forms of media aim to convey a message, from the moral of the story to the stories found within the characters and their environments. Unfortunately, every human has their own personal biases and agendas. These can leak through to the final product via stereotypes, biases, and discriminations. Today, I'm going to break down some of these topics and maybe even rearrange the way you see our modern industry. One topic widely discussed on social media is the male gaze. But what is it really? Igor Rodriguez defines the male gaze as something present in media that portrays women as objects of sexual desire and defines their identity in relation to a male character. It's designed for men, by men, and aims to appeal to a stereotypical man, not only creating a two-dimensional portrayal of a woman, but conditioning men to believe it as truth. This plays a much bigger role in life than just media, as the male gaze is cleverly hidden across all forms of media, shaping the viewer from a young age without them even noticing. This portrayal of women stems all the way back to the traditional right-wing values of women, keeping them seen but not heard. There is also a somewhat opposing theory to the male gaze, the female gaze. This is basically just an inversion of the male gaze, placing women at the centre of stories and placing men in the background. While this isn't a bad idea, it doesn't put everyone on an equal playing field, and instead places the objectification onto men as tall, handsome and muscular love interests. Men within the male gaze are presented differently. Children Now researched into classic masculine icons in 1999, finding 6 common archetypes in media: the Joker, the jock, the strong silent type, the big shot, and the action hero. Taking a closer look at these archetypes, one is seen more commonly throughout every form of media: the action hero. This angry and violent depiction of men is echoed throughout many films, from thrillers to action, showing men in a violent stereotype of high energy, danger, loudness, and aggression. Toxic masculinity is the aggressive and dominant beliefs and mindsets of stereotypical masculine men. It is rampant within this archetype. One such example of this is found within The Walking Dead. The character of Shane Walsh shows a very extreme but stereotypical depiction of a toxically masculine man. One scene in particular shows this better than others. Over the course of Season 2, Shane grows more and more frustrated with the main leader's ways of handling things. When Shane returns to the farm and finds Rick and Herschel leading zombies into the barn, it's a breaking point for Shane, and he decides to take matters into his own hands, enacting his will whether the rest of the group wants him to or not. The scene begins with Rick and Herschel entering the farm with 2 walkers on snare poles. Upon seeing this, Shane bursts into a fit of rage, sprinting down the hill to face Rick. This already shows 2 parts of the character archetype: the anger and the strength. Being willing and able to sprint down the hill and confront Rick without tiring, he carries himself throughout the show with weight. Every step looks as if he's stomping, and when he runs in this scene, we see him move with speed and emotion. This already shows the speed and the energy of the action hero archetype. Upon reaching Rick, he instantly begins interrogating and criticising the people in power at the farm, showing his aggressive side. The shots here consist of close-up angles and shaky movements, with quick cuts paralleling Shane's unpredictable and unstable nature in this scene. Shane then begins firing upon the walker to make a point. At this stage, the shots stabilise and go slightly wider, showing a bit more of the scene, but still somewhat erratic, until finally, Shane kills the walker with one final slow-motion shot. At this point, the music begins, and we get a moment of silence before Shane throws us back into the action with more interrogations and aggression. All of this leads into Shane opening the barn and killing every walker inside, giving us the danger aspect of the action hero character. Shane's actions in this scene aren't 100% unjustifiable. His intentions are safety, but his toxic masculinity is what causes the issues here, showing multiple traits listed by the Aurora New Dawn definition of toxic masculinity. Shane acts as a dominant, violent risk-taker in this scene, and throughout the show he also shows the traits of promiscuity and, in one case, sexual violence. These traits come together to create a stereotypically toxic masculine character whose actions, for the most part, aren't displayed in a very negative light. Queer media covers the whole spectrum of media created by members of the LGBTQ+ community. Queer themes are not always present within queer media, but there are often at least subtle references. Queer themes like identity, self-exploration, coming out, and family support or lack thereof are very common within queer media. Queer characters had their start in media as a source of humour, being the punchline to many jokes. The 1930s Hays Code forbade the explicit portrayal of homosexuals within film. This lasted for more than 30 years, with filmmakers sneaking in hidden references to a character's queerness. One such example is Joel in The Maltese Falcon, whose character was homosexual in the novel, but when portrayed on screen, it was never stated. Despite this, his character fits the gay stereotype of an effeminate man who worries about his clothes getting dirty. These stereotypes are often somewhat good representation, but also, portraying a character using stereotypes can be offensive and played for jokes. Throughout history, there have been many influential female filmmakers. Anna Hoffmann-Undgren was the first female filmmaker to come out of Switzerland, producing Stockholm Frestelsa in 1911, a silent film about a young sawmill owner, Anders Persson, and his wife, Julia, who go on holiday to Stockholm after winning the lottery, meeting people on arrival and then making plans for a night in town. Although a basic film, it was a large stepping stone for female filmmakers, being one of the first films produced by a woman. Well known within female cinema is Alice Guy Blasch, a pioneer for women in film, being the very first female director, making the 1986 La Fille au Coeur. We don't know for certain, but the film is generally known as the first released narrative film. From 1986 to 1906, she was the head of production at the company she worked with, and is credited for making hundreds of French and American films. Feminism is the belief that men and women should be treated equally and not placed under a misogynistic or misandrous society, living fairly regardless of gender. Film theory is the study of films, beginning in the 1920s, looking deeper into the essence of a film and its themes, meanings, and etc. Feminist film theory began in 1970s America, being very heavily influenced by second-wave feminism. It is the criticism of films from a feminist political viewpoint. In recent years, feminist film theory has evolved with the current norms of film, while still looking back to study the films of the past. Laura Mulvey is a well-known feminist film theorist, known for her critically acclaimed 1975 essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, being near the first of many essays that pushed the foundation for a more psychological analysis of film, especially with feminist ideals. Feminist film theory has broken down and scrutinized films for things like the male gaze, toxic masculinity, and misogyny. Overall, identity is represented in many different ways across all forms of media. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.